Well, let's take a look at the hard way in VB. Now, let me just say, if you just got through watching the hard way in C Sharp, no reason to watch this video. I'm going to do the same things we did in VB. The syntax is marginally different. Our indexers are parentheses instead of brackets. There are no semicolons. That's the only difference. Okay, so from this point, I'm assuming you did not watch the C Sharp video. So to do this, let's get us an SSIS package going here. We need a script task, and we need a variable to play with here. So grab ourselves a script. I'll do the same thing I did in the last one. We had that remote file name, make it a string, and give it some kind of a value. Do Techerbia for this one. And so now, this is a package level scope, right? Okay. What we did in the previous video that theoretically you saw was we declared it here in the read-only variables collection. And we talked about how when we do that, this locks this particular variable for reading. And that means that if we have tasks that are running in parallel, other tasks can read the value of this variable, but no one else may actually write to that variable until this script task has completed, because it has locked it for reading. And you remember we talked about how readers block writers and writers block readers. Okay, that's going to become very important as we start doing this the hard way. So just doing this the easy way, we came down, we wrote our script. We just said message box.show, dts.variables, and we said remote file name dot value. Okay. Oops, need to close our parens. Right, it's fairly simple, straightforward, not a whole lot to this. We can close it out and it runs just like it did in the last video. Yay. Okay. Now, watch what happens when I take this out of the read-only variables collection. It will fail. And what it does when it fails is it gives you a cryptic error message here. It says the element cannot be found in a collection. And if you look right here, you see that the variables get item is what fails. It is trying to find a variable, but it cannot find that variable. Okay. Let me show you how to diagnose that. Coming back over here, looking in the edit script. I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff just to keep it a little tighter here. In this dts.variables collection, this is only those that are already defined in either the read-only variables or the read-write variables collection. If you have variables that are not defined in that list, you cannot access them in this way. You have to use a different technique. So get rid of this guy and let's talk about the other technique. Okay, so dts.variables, right? Look at this other guy here, and I know it's kind of faint. Let's see if it shows up there. You see variable dispenser. So underneath it's kind of covered up right there, but it's dts.variables, and then there's the variable dispenser. The variables is what you use when you have pre-typed in at this level. When you have pre-done these guys over here, you can use dts.variables. When you haven't filled anything in over here, yet you still want to reference and use variables, that's when you use the variable dispenser. Now, let's come back. There's a couple of things that you're going to have to do here. You've got to create some sort of a, like I'll make my vars, some variable to store all of your variables. So we're going to use the variable type. So the variables class. And then we're going to use our variable dispenser. And what is it that we want to do? We want to lock. Okay, you see these lock 1 for read, lock 1 for write, lock for read, lock for write. This is the exact same thing that you had on the previous screen. You have your read-only variables collection. You have your read-write variables collection. The difference here is that when you declare that variable at the script task level, you are locking that variable for the duration of the script task. In reality, you might want to simply lock that variable for a very, very small amount of time. You might have a large script task with tons and tons of code in it, but you only want to lock that particular variable for a couple of lines or just one little bitty execution. And then you want to release that lock so that other parallel tasks wouldn't be blocked. So what you can do is I can say, you know what? I want to lock one variable for read. So I lock it for read, and it says which variable. Okay, what's the name of the variable? Excuse me. What was it? Remote file name. And where do you want to put it? I want to put it in my vars. And so we've now locked it for read. And now it's simply a matter of showing it to us. Messagebox.show. I want to get the value from my vars, and I want to get remote file name. Dot value. Now, once you have locked, what do you now need to do? You need to unlock. So you are specifying here when you want to unlock it. The whole purpose of bringing in this lock 1 for read is so that you can very quickly release it. You can read the value and then release it and let the rest of the tasks in SSIS use that variable as they see fit. This is granular concurrency. You don't want to lock it for the whole script task. You just want to lock it for a little bit. So let's say over here, let's say, okay, I'm cool, man. Let's try this now. I've now brought in my variable dispenser, and sure enough, I'm able to access that. Now, there are other ways to do this as well. Let me just share with you a couple of things about this particular script. You might have noticed over here that it says, by the way, you're passing by reference, but it is null up here. Well, you know, you can wrap a try-catch around this so that if it actually returns a null value because there is no remote file name, then it doesn't cause the whole task to explode. You can maybe gracefully decompose or control how that actually works. Another one up here. So this is one option. Let's see how I can do this here. So like this would be option A, and then here's option B, and so we'll just comment those guys out. So we'll do the same thing. So dim my vars as a variables type, and you know, you could actually do all that in a single line in VB. It's a maybe. So now I'm going to use the lock for read. So you notice the difference. There's lock 1 for read, and then there's lock for read. Functionally, there's no real difference. I can say lock for read remote file name. Remember, it is case sensitive. And so then I say cool. However, it's a two-step process now. Now that I've locked it, I have to actually get the variables. So I have to tell it to get the variables and put them into my vars. Oops, I'm doing my C# stuff. I just got through doing the the C# video. Now I can use them. Once I have done that, I can say my vars remote file name dot value. And remember to always unlock, right? And so this will do the exact same thing. It's just a two-step process here. You could do it either way. The nice thing about using lock for read is that I'm able to declare multiple variables a lot easier than lock 1 for read. So if I had to import, say, 5 or 6 different variables in my script task, then I'd use lock for read to do that. And then eventually, at the very last bit would be to get all of the variables that I've locked and put them into my variables variable. It's hard to say all of that there. But just to show you, this does the same thing. No performance difference, no functionality difference really between the two. A couple of things here before we split. In the real world, what I would probably do is make that a variable. So I would say which variable equals remote file name, and I would simply replace that. And I would not, in the my variables, my vars collection, I wouldn't reference it by name again. I would probably reference it by location. So since I locked this one first, it has the 0 position. And I think that's probably a little easier. You can do it either by number or by string. That's your choice, whichever one that you prefer to do. Now, finally, the last thing that I'll say is this is going to probably be, for a lot of you, a very common design pattern. It's something that you'll probably be doing quite a bit. It is totally cool to come down here and make yourself a new function to do all of this. So have your function return an object or have it return integers. You can make it actually pretty generic here. And it's really not, it can become copy and paste level code here.